Chapter 14 of my trip abroad by Charlie Chaplin. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 14. Farewells to London and Paris. I had promised to attend the premiere showing of The Kid in Paris, and I went back to the French capital as I came, via airplane. The trip was uneventful, and on landing and going to my hotel I find a message from Doug Fairbanks. He and Mary had arrived in Paris and were stopping at the Crillon. They asked me over for a chat, but I was too tired. Doug promised to attend the premiere at the Trocadero Theater. During the afternoon there came 250 souvenir programs to be autographed. These were to be sold that night for 100 francs each. In the evening I went to the theater via the back way, but there was no escape. It was the biggest demonstration I had yet seen. For several blocks around, the crowds were jammed in the streets, and the gendarmes had their hands full. Paris had declared a holiday for this occasion, and as the proceeds of the entertainment were to be given to the fund for devastated France, the elite of the country were there. I am introduced to Ambassador Herrick, then shown to my box and introduced to the ministers of the French cabinet. I do not attempt to remember names, but the following list has been preserved for me by my secretary. Monsieur Menard, who attended on behalf of President Mirande, Monsieur Jusserand, Monsieur Hubert, Monsieur Caron, Monsieur Lochet, Minister of the Liberated Regions, Monsieur Hermite, Colonel and Mrs. H. Harget, Miss Hope Harget, Mr. and Mrs. Wrigley Carter, Mrs. Arthur James, Mrs. W.K. Vanderbilt, Mrs. Rutherford Stuyvesant, Walter Berry, Monsieur du Erazu, Marquis du Vallombrosa, Mademoiselle Cecil Sorel, Robert Hostetter, Monsieur Byron Coon, Mr. and Mrs. Charles G. Loeb, Florence O'Neill, Monsieur Henry Letellet, Monsieur Georges Carpentier, Paul C. Otey, Mr. and Mrs. George Kenneth End, Prince George of Greece, Princess Xenia, Prince Christopher, Lady Sarah Wilson, Mrs. Elsa Maxwell, Princess Sutso, Vice Admiral and Mrs. Albert P. Niblack, Comte and Comtesse Cardelli, Duchess du Talleyrand, Colonel and Mrs. N.D.J., Colonel Bernau Varilla, Marquise du Talleyrand Perigord, Marquis and Marquise du Chambron, Miss Viola Cross, Miss Elsie de Wolfe, Marquis and Marquise du Dampier, and Mr. and Mrs. Theodore Rousseau. My box is draped with American and British flags, and the applause is so insistent that I find I am embarrassed. But there is a delicious tingle to it, and I am feeling now what Doug felt when his Three Musketeers was shown. The programs which I autograph during the afternoon are sold immediately, and the audience wants more. I autograph as many more as possible. I am photographed many times, and I sit in a daze through most of it. At one time going backstage, though I don't know why, except that I was photoed back there, too. The picture was shown, but I did not see much of it. There was too much to be seen in that audience. At the end of the picture, there came a messenger from the minister. Would I come to his box and be decorated? I almost fell out of my box. I grew sick. What would I say? There was no chance to prepare. I had visions of the all-night preparation of my speech in Southampton. This would be infinitely worse. I couldn't even think clearly. Why do I pick out stunts like that? I might have known that something would happen, but the floor would not open up for me to sink through, and there was no one in this friendly audience who could help me in my dilemma. And the messenger was waiting politely, though I imagine just a bit impatiently, so summoning what courage I had, I went to the box with about the same feeling as a man approaching the guillotine. I am presented to everybody. He makes a speech. It is translated for me, but very badly. While he was speaking, I tried to think of something neat and appropriate, but all my thoughts seemed trite. I finally realized that he was finished, and I merely said, "Merci," which, after all, was about as good as I could have done. And believe me, I meant merci both in French and in English. But the applause is continuing. I must say something. So I stand up in the box and make a speech about the motion picture industry and tell them that it is a privilege for us to make a presentation for such a cause as that of devastated France. Somehow they liked it, or made me believe they did. There was a tremendous demonstration, and several bearded men kissed me before I could get out. But I was blocked in, and the crowd wouldn't leave. At last, the lights were turned on, but still they lingered. Then there came an old watchman who said he could take us through an unknown passage that led to the street. We followed him and managed to escape, though there was still a tremendous crowd to break through in the street. Outside I meet Camille, who congratulates me, and together we go to the Hotel Crillon to see Doug and Mary. Mary and Doug are very kind in congratulating me, and I tell them of my terrible conduct during the presentation of the decoration. I knew that I was wholly inadequate for the occasion. I keep mumbling of my faux pas, and they try to make me forget my misery by telling me that General Pershing's is in the next room. I'll bet the general never went through a battle like the one I passed through that night. Then they wanted to see the decoration, which reminded me that I had not yet looked at it myself. So I unrolled the parchment, and Doug read aloud the magic words from the Minister of Instruction of the Public and Beaux Arts, which made Charles Chaplin, dramatist artist, an officier de l'instruction publique. We sit there until 3 a.m, discussing it, and then I go back to my hotel tired but rather happy. That night was worth all the trip to Europe. At the hotel, there was a note from Skaya. She had been to the theater to see the picture. She sat in the gallery and saw the kid taking time from her work. Her note: I saw picture. You are a grand man. My heart is joy. You must be happy. I laugh, I cry. Skaya. This little message was not the least of my pleasures that night. Elsie de Wolfe was my hostess at luncheon next day at the Villa Trianon, Versailles, a most interesting and enjoyable occasion, where I met some of the foremost poets and artists. Returning to Paris, I meet Henry Wales, and we take a trip through the Latin Quarter together. That night, I dine with Camille, Georges Carpentier, and Henri Lettier. Carpentier asks for an autograph, and I draw him a picture of my hat, shoes, cane, and mustache, my implements of trade. Carpentier, not to be outdone, draws for me a huge fist encased in a boxing glove. I am due back in England next day to lunch with Sir Philip Sassoon and to meet Lloyd George. Lord and Lady Rock Savage, Lady Diana Manners, and many other prominent people are to be among the guests, and I am looking forward to the luncheon eagerly. We are going back by airplane, though Carl Robinson lets me know that he prefers some other mode of travel. On this occasion, I am nervous, and I say frequently that I feel as though something is going to happen. This does not make it a hit with Carl. We figure that by leaving at 8:00 in the morning, we can make London by 1:00, which will give me plenty of time to keep my engagement. But we hadn't been up long before we were lost in the fog over the Channel and were forced to make a landing on the French coast, causing a delay of 2 hours. But we finally made it, though I was 2 hours late for my engagement, and the thought of keeping Lloyd George and those other people waiting was ghastly. Our landing in England was made at the Croydon Aerodrome, and there was a big automobile waiting outside, around which were several hundred people. The Aerodrome officials, assuming that the car was for me, hustled me into it, and it was driven off. But it was not mine, and I found that I was not being driven to the Ritz, but to the Majestic Theater in Clapham. The chauffeur wore a mustache, and though he looked familiar, I did not recognize him. But very dramatically he removed the mustache. I am Castleton Knight. A long time ago you promised to visit my theater. I have concluded that the only way to get you there is to kidnap you. So kindly consider yourself kidnapped. I couldn't help but laugh, even as I thought of Lloyd George, and I assured Mr. Knight that he was the first one who had ever kidnapped me. So we went to the theater, and I stayed an hour and surprised both myself and the audience by making a speech. Back at the hotel, Sir Philip meets me and tells me that Lloyd George can't wait, that he had a most important engagement at 4:00. I explained the airplane situation to Sir Philip, and he was very kind. I feel that it was most unfortunate, for it was my only opportunity to meet Lloyd George in these times, and I love to meet interesting personages. I would like to meet Lenin, Trotsky, and the Kaiser. This is to be my last night in England, and I have promised to dine and spend the evening with my cousin Aubrey. One feels dutiful to one's cousin. I also discover that this is the day I am to meet Sheliapin and H.G. Wells. I phone H.G. and explain that this is my last day, and of my promise to my cousin. H.G. is very nice. He understands. He can only do these things with such people. My cousin calls for me at dusk in a taxi, and we ride to his home in Bayswater. London is so beautiful at this hour, when the first lights are being turned on, and each light, to me, is symbolical. They all mean life, and I wish sometimes I could peer behind all these lighted windows. Reaching Aubrey's house, I notice a number of people on the other side of the street, standing in the shadows. They must be reporters, I think, and I am slightly annoyed that they should find me even here. But my cousin explains hesitatingly that they are just friends of his, waiting for a look at me. I feel mean and naughty about this, as I recall that I had just requested him not to make a party of my visit. I just wanted a family affair with no visitors, and these simple souls on the other side of the street were respecting my wishes. I relent and tell Aubrey to ask them over anyway. They are all quite nice, simple tradesmen, clerks, etc. Aubrey has a salon, or at least a hotel, as he calls it, in the vicinity of Bayswater. And later in the evening I suggest that we go there and take his friends with us. Aubrey is shocked. "No, not around to my place." Then they all demur. They don't wish to intrude. I like this. Then I insist. They weaken. He weakens. We go to a pub in a very respectable part of Bayswater and enter the bar. The place is doing a flourishing business. There are a number of pictures of my brother Sid and myself all over the walls, in character and straight. The place is packed tonight. It must be a very popular resort. "What will you have?" I feel breezy. "Give the whole saloon a drink." Aubrey whispers, "Don't let them know you are here." He says this for me, but I insist. "Introduce me to all of them." I must get him more custom. He starts quietly whispering to some of his very personal friends. "This is my cousin. Don't say a word." I speak up rather loudly. "Give them all a drink." I feel a bit vulgar tonight. I want to spend money like a drunken sailor. Even the customers are shocked. They hardly believe that it's Charlie Chaplin, who always avoids publicity, acting in this vulgar way. I am sure that some of them don't believe, despite many assurances. A stunt of my cousin's. But they drink, reverently and with reserve, and then they bid me good night and we depart quietly, leaving Bayswater as respectable as ever. To the house for dinner, after which someone brings forth an old family album. It is just like all other family albums. This is your great-granduncle, and that is your great-grandmother. This is Aunt Lucy. This one was a French general. Aubrey says, "You know, we have quite a good family on your father's side." There are pictures of uncles who are very prosperous cattle ranchers in South Africa. Wonder why I don't hear from my prosperous relations. This is the first time that I am aware of my family. and I am now convinced that we are true aristocrats, blue blood of the first water. Aubrey has children, a boy of 12, whom I have never met before. A fine boy. I suggest educating him. We talk of it at length and with stress. Let's keep up family tradition. He may be a member of Parliament, or perhaps president. He's a bright boy. We dig up all the family and discuss them. The uncles in Spain. Why, we Chaplins have populated the earth. When I came, I told Aubrey that I could stay only 2 hours. But it is 4 a.m., and we are still talking. As we leave, Aubrey walks with me toward the Ritz. We hail a Ford truck on the way, and a rather dandified young Johnny, a former officer, gives us a lift. Right you are, jump on. A new element, these dandies driving trucks. Some of them graduates of Cambridge and Oxford, of good families. Most of them impecunious aristocrats. Perhaps it is the best thing that could happen to such families. This chap is very quiet and gentle. He talks mostly of his truck and his marketing, which he thinks is quite a game. He has been in the grocery business since the war and has never made so much money. We get considerable of his story as we jolt along in the truck. He is providing groceries for all his friends in Baywater, and every morning at 4 o'clock he is on his way to the market. He loves the truck. It is so simple to drive. Half a mo. He stops talking and pulls up for gas at a pretty little white-tiled gas station. The station is all lit up, though it is but 5 a.m. Good morning. Give me about 5 gal. Righto. The cheery greeting means more than the simple words that are said. The lad recognizes me and greets me frankly, though formally. It seems so strange to hear this truck driver go along conversing in the easiest possible manner, a truck driver who enjoyed truck driving. He spoke of films for just a bit and then discreetly stopped, thinking, perhaps, that I might not like to talk about them. And besides, he liked to talk about his truck. He told us how wonderful it was to drive along in the truck in the early morning with only the company of dawn and the stars. He loved the silent streets, sleeping London. He was enterprising, full of hopes and ambitions. Told how he bartered, he knew how. His was a lovely business. He was smoking a pipe and wore a trilby hat with a sort of frock coat, and his neck was wrapped in a scarf. I figured him to be about 30 years of age. I nudged my cousin. Would he accept anything? We hardly know whether or not to offer it, though he is going out of his way to drive me to the Ritz. He has insisted that it is no trouble, that he can cut through to Covent Garden. No trouble. I tell the gas man to fill it up, and I insist on paying for the gas. The lad protests, but I insist. That's very nice of you, really, but it was a pleasure to have you, he says as he gets back into a seat. We cut through to Piccadilly and pull up at the Ritz in a Ford truck. Quite an arrival. The lad bids us goodbye, Delighted to have met you. Hope you have a bully time. Too bad you are leaving. Bon voyage. Come back in the spring. London is charming then. Well, I must be off. I'm late. Good morning. We talk him over on the steps as he drives away. He is the type of an aristocrat that must live. He is made of the stuff that marks the true aristocrat. He is an inspiration. He talked just enough, never too much. The intonation of his voice and his sense of beauty as he appreciated the dawn stamped him as of the elite. The real elite, not the blue book variety. Loving adventure, virtuous, doing something all the time, and loving doing it. What an example he is. He has 2 stores. This is his first truck. He loves it. He is the first of his kind that I have met. This is my last night in England. I am glad that it brought me this contact with real nobility. End of chapter 14.